Starting live. Are we good? We on? We're on. Yay! So, thank you for joining us for the latest SilviaFindings live stream. We're doing this on one camera today, so I'm gonna have to move this thing around a little bit to get this to work. This is not my phone and not the usual phone we do this on either. So if I screw something up, it's on me. And the fact that we didn't practice this before we're going. But anyway, we're here every Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. And extrapolate it out to wherever you are. Obviously, if you're on the East Coast, it's 1:30 in the afternoon. So welcome back from lunch. I didn't bring my list. I have a list of things that I always, preamble. We're going to continue on today with the pearl pendants. And again, I say pearl pendants, but what I mean are pendants with a cup and peg mounting instead of a prong mounting or bezel mounting or anything like that. The cup and peg is just what it sounds like. It's a cup. Sometimes it's filled in, sometimes it's cute designs, and there's a peg that sometimes is just straight, sometimes a little spiral, that you're meant to glue half-drilled stones or pearls onto. And again, I think traditionally most of these things were designed with pearls in mind, but as artists are wont to do, so many different things have been created for these kind of things. One thing that's becoming very popular these days are resin cast commemorative jewelry with breast milk or crematorium ashes, or I don't know, locks of hair or other weird stuff. Well, whatever you want to put in it, it's a commemoration. It means something to you, right? And people will cast cabochons or beads, whatever, with in this epoxy resin, acrylic resin, a couple of different kinds of resin. I think epoxy resin are the ones that are most popular right now. And then, you can either cast a cabochon in whatever, size you want, or you can cast beads or partially drilled beads, or, or just whatever. Or you can pour the resin directly right into some of these settings. The settings that have a closed back, you can just snip the little post off and pour the resin directly in there. And some of them, very cool effects. I actually bought some resin. I've been playing with it. It's a lot of fun. I bought it for specifically for another project altogether, but it's very cool and it's a lot of fun. I forget what my point. Most of those kind of projects, most of those kind of acrylic things, work beautifully in these settings. So yeah. Let's move right along. Well, a couple of things. Don't forget, if you share this video with somebody, we'll send you one of these polishing cloths. If you order today during the live stream, don't forget you get 10% off. 10% off regular prices, and free regular shipping, regular mail shipping. That doesn't include tracking or any of that kind of stuff, insurance. So if you're just ordering one or two things, it's a good time to do it. You can definitely get a few things without worrying about paying for the shipping. Speaking of shipping, things are typically slow everywhere. I think things are starting to catch up. I think we're almost, I would say 95% back to normal in the shipments down to the U.S., into the States. U.S. Postal Service, the parcel service anyway, are pretty much back up to normal. I think there's still some issues with letter mail because inexplicably a bunch of mail sorters in some states got disassembled. Shenanigans. But anyway, neither here nor there. Parcel mail is doing pretty good. Into Europe, it's still bad. You know, it still takes forever, although stuff still gets there. We just had a message from Germany, somebody saying, "Oh, I got my thing. It worked beautifully. I love it. It's awesome." So nice. When the stuff gets there, it does get there eventually. But it just might take a long time. I think this thing that I just got an email this morning from the gal in Germany, we shipped that before Christmas. So it's literally a whole month, like a month and a half to get there. So anyway, what else? I guess that's it. As far as custom ordering goes, we're still taking custom orders, even though if you didn't watch the whole thing last week or the week before, I've just been mentioning that the factory is closed for Lunar New Year, and they will reopen again beginning of March. So we still got a couple weeks of them to be closed. So the custom casting is oops. Sorry, that's my Etsy app on my phone. Cha-ching. So yes, we get orders all the time from Etsy. Didn't expect to get one on while I was live, but anyway, neither here nor there. I should turn off the notifications on my phone, but I can't do it right now. Where was I? What was I talking about? Not important. Probably not important. Oh, custom. I was talking about custom. Yes. So the casting facilities are closed, but the people who do the 3D design, even though they are off, they can still work from home and they can still, you know, do the designing stuff. So if you have a custom thing in mind, don't be shy. You know, the sooner you get the order in, especially because the casting facilities won't be open again until for a couple weeks, and when they come back, there's going to be kind of a backlog of custom orders. So just, you know, beware. The sooner you get your order in, you know, obviously it won't be cast for a couple of weeks, but at least we'll get the 3D drawing done and everything so that it can go into the production schedule and there won't be any delays, you know, there. If you wait until then, you know, you'll be waiting until then, and who knows what kind of a backlog we're going to be seeing in the production facilities. I don't know. And as far as pricing goes, I think I'm going to talk about the pendants now, but as far as pricing goes, there's two prices on everything. The one is a retail price and the other is a wholesale price, and the difference between the retail and the wholesale is you just need to spend $150 at the wholesale level to get the wholesale price. So if something is retail priced at $15 and it's wholesale priced at $10, you know, you wouldn't, if you bought 10 of them, your retail value would be $150, but the wholesale value would only be $100, so you wouldn't get the discount. You'd have to get 15 of them to get the wholesale price of $10 each, $150. That's how that works. Having said that, you don't have to buy multitudes of all one thing just to get the wholesale price. You can, you know, buy 15 different items at $10 each, and that you get the wholesale price for all of them. So, well, that makes sense. That makes sense, right? It's a function of you know, volume. Just, you know, as long as you buy the volume, you know, you get the discount. Okay, so let's move right along. Let me just switch views on this camera phone and bring this down. And our first item, and I do say this is Nelson's phone. Last week and most weeks we use Marble's phone because he has it set up so that we can do multi-camera stuff, but his phone doesn't focus as good as this one. This is good. Is this an iPhone? Yeah. That's why, right? MTP 631 with a retail price of $46.80 and a wholesale price of $35.10. This is, I don't know what this is, weird. It's like a big snake or something. It's a snake. It's got to be a snake. Some kind of very cool stylized snake. The cup and peg is down on the bottom, right? So there's a nice big opening, right? See the inside, the back. with that peg. I don't know if you can see the peg down at the bottom of that thing there. But this, clearly you could put something huge in there, up to, 16 or 18 millimeter pearl, maybe, or, semi-drilled stone, or even you could probably glue in like a round cab in there and maybe push these things over onto the... Anyway, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I love this cubic zirconia all the way up and around the neck and around the sides of the body. And I don't know, that just, to me, that, I guess it could be... Actually, I don't know. I don't think you could interpret this as anything other than a snake. But that's just me. Maybe a dragon? Who knows? Here's one that... Oh, no, the sample on the card is really tarnished. This has probably been there for like 10 years on this card. LJ648. Retail price of $823 and a wholesale price of $601. It's got a nice big square. Let me get one out of there that isn't tarnished, right? So we've got this nice big wide bail. I don't know, how big is that? Probably, I don't know, 12 or 14 millimeter cup, and the peg there, and it's got cute little lines on the back, right? Very simple, very classic. Again, this is one of those things with these closed pieces, like obviously something like this, right, where the background is open, right? I mean, I guess you could tape that off, but this you could just pour, acrylic resin right in there, cure it right in there. Very cool. Our next item, MTP 700, with a retail price of $20.68 and a wholesale price of $12.92. This lovely key pendant with a row of cubic zirconias set down the middle of that, the shaft of the key, and lovely cup and peg in the top there for a semi-drilled stone or pearl on there. And this, boy, you can get away with something as small as probably 8 millimeter, all the way up to even maybe smaller, if you don't mind seeing a little silver border around it, all the way up to probably 14 millimeter or so, or you could just fill it with epoxy resin. And because you can never have enough keys, this one around the outside has just got this kind of like, I don't know, it looks like Peruvian clouds, sort of motif in the top. This key is a little more ornate, right, with the tines. Also cubic zirconias in there all the way around up to a heart up at the top, with the pearl or the thing. Actually, I'm just going to keep using the word pearl. When I say pearl, just assume that I mean it in the French version of the word, meaning something that's kind of round and small and decorative. Doesn't necessarily have to mean right? You know that the French word for bead is pearl, pearl. It's kind of the same. It doesn't mean the same thing as pearl, but we can pretend it's all interchangeable. MTP 701, retail price $26.81, wholesale price $16.76. Just love these. Here's one, MTP 491. With a retail price of $21.28 and a wholesale price of $13.30. This lovely spiral geometric, patterns with cubic zirconias up at the top in the bail and the incorporated bail. It's all one piece incorporated. It's got a nice open cup and peg. And you can see that peg there, nice tall peg. And whenever you're gluing your semi-drilled pearls or stones or whatever onto it, you want to use a good two-part epoxy glue, the kind that dries clear. And our next winner is the bail is hanging down here. Move this up. Anyway, MTP $490 with a retail price of $10.92 and a wholesale price of $6.83. And it's just a lovely sea star, right, with a interesting cup and peg in kind of a pentagonal shape. And the bail is just a classic, bail. Sorry, that's tied up weird on that little card. MTP 181 with a retail price of $35.10 and a wholesale price of $21.06. Obviously, it's a turtle, right? With the feet and the head bedecked with cubic zirconias, pave style with some mill grain texture in there, looks like, and the body, this nice big round cup and peg with open back. What I was saying before, I guess you could, using tape or something, electrical tape or something, things seal off the back, and then fill, this whole, cut the peg off, obviously, and then fill this all with resin. I know I seem obsessed with resin. I don't know why. I've just been playing with it. It's very cool stuff. Anyway. Turtle. MTP 168 with a retail price of $22.74 and a wholesale price of $14.21. I don't know what that kind of a clover, maybe, I don't know, something, 5-leaf clover. So you're extra lucky. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. Some kind of floral motif looking thing with all these swooping lines. It's very three-dimensional, right? It looks how deep that basket is with the cup and peg mounting way down on the inside of that. This is really nice for a good, for a small, like a 6 or 8 millimeter pearl or a stone. It'll make it look like, the pearl that you glue in there is nestled down in the bottom of this pendant setting. Very, very neat. Very cool. And this one, because I love these crazy geometric ones, and there's a couple of them coming up here. I just love these. These are, everybody who's ever played with a 3D printer has made stuff like this. MTP 468 with a retail price of $15.42 and a wholesale price of $10.28. Again, bail incorporated into the design with the little cup and peg mounting down there. I don't know if you could bend this to change how big of a bead you want in there. Probably. I mean, it's just metal, right? But the cup and peg as it sits right now, probably for a 6 or 8 millimeter pearl, you probably extend that up to about a 10 or 12 millimeter before you start hitting the top there. Anyway, I just love this kind of crazy lines. I don't know if they started with the a backwards treble clef as a starting point for the design, but very cool. Very sci-fi. MTP 402 with a retail price of $49.01 and a wholesale price of $32.67. And this is just a lovely, pierced bail with some little hearts in the bail, and a nice big thick oval frame that obviously gets bigger. There's pave style with some mill grain texture in there with all this cubic zirconias and the little cup and peg in the middle, right? With the pendant this big. I guess with the what I mean is the opening here this big, you could get away with easily something as small as 8 millimeter pearl all the way up to 14 millimeter or so. You don't want to get too big because then all the weight starts coming out the front and it'll hang forward because the weight of the pearl in the front will pull that forward. But anything, smaller than like 16 or so probably 12, 14 would be great in here, would be awesome here, I think. Here we have MTP 012 with a retail price of $24.82 and a wholesale price of $17.37. And this is just another one of these, postmodern, very abstract. I don't know what that evokes to you. Maybe a leaf, some alien butterfly, something. But I think a little row of cubic zirconias in here. The bail is incorporated into the design. Lovely the cup and peg mounting down in the bottom there, or it's just mostly just a cup mounting. Again, from a small pearl, 6-8 millimeter, all the way up to something huge. You could probably fit like an 18 or 20 millimeter pearl in there very easily. And it's just lovely. Very busy on one side and very, simple and plain on the other side. I like that very cool juxtaposition, right, depending on what side you're looking at. That's a good word you don't get to use very often. Juxtaposition. MTP 156 with a retail price of $24.64 and a wholesale price of $15.39. And this, I kind of love this because it's sort of like a cutout of a dome with another dome on the back, right? That's just, textured. And it almost feels like it's an enclosed, partially enclosed piece. Obviously, one of these rays is bedecked with cubic zirconias. And the post down in the middle, right, to glue your stone or pearl on. Very three-dimensional, very interactive, definitely eye-catching piece. It's something you don't see very often in this kind of prefabricated jewelry. Is stuff that's specifically three-dimensional looking, just because it's a tricky trick to pull off. As far as jewelry, I know I've made lots of jewelry fabrication-wise that it takes a lot of planning to pull off a really good 3D effect. MTP 222 with a retail price of $30.49 and a wholesale price of $18.29. And I don't know what to say about this. It's just a lovely kind of floral fauna sort of inspired leaves with cubic zirconias in the top, and branches coming all the way up and around the sides, and the cup and peg down at the bottom. Again, anything from probably 10 to 16 millimeters would be awesome in this setting. Anything bigger, it starts to get busy. Here's one. Now, I'm just a sucker for quills, feathers, these big feathers. MTP 694. 38.13 is the retail price, and 23.83 is the wholesale price. And again, it's just a lovely big frond, I guess would be the word for it. Lovely double bail right in the back, incorporated into the design. And some of these fronds have cubic zirconias in them, and the nice big cup and peg mounting on the bottom. Very cool. Or you think that's cool? We have some really amazing ones coming up later. Not that they aren't all amazing, but you know what I mean. MTP 172 with a retail price of $18.34 and a wholesale price of $11.47. And this is just a simple kind of almost a faux fold-over, bail with some cubic zirconias in the bail and a nice cup and peg mounting in the bottom. Inside a nice round circular frame. Boy, with that kind of a cup and peg, how it's kind of a flower look, you can get away with pearls that are much smaller than the setting, or that completely fill that. So I don't know how big that is, probably 12 millimeters wide. That might be pushing it. Probably 10 millimeters would be the biggest thing I would put in there, but you could definitely get away with smaller, for sure. MTP 394 with a retail price of $30.30 and a wholesale price of $30.20 and 2020. There's some math involved there, I'm sure. MTP 394. Love this kind of almost like a paisley, shape. With one of the lines completely bedecked with cubic zirconias all the way around, and the mill grain texture on the outside, and a little vine with leaves to cover this. So obviously you could bend this out, to put the pearl in, and then once your pearl or stone is glued in there, then you could push that down onto the top of that. Just it wouldn't necessarily be there to provide more stability, but just, you know, to look cool, right? Because that would just look cool. MTP 247 with a retail price of $17.48 and a wholesale price of $11.99. And this golly, what is this weird animal? Obviously, so this is just a dolphin, leaping dolphin, right? With a bail incorporated into the design. I don't know if you can see that back there. And the peg is just on the tail there, right? So that pearl will just sit there on the tail with the happy dolphin leaping around while he's bouncing the pearl off his tail, I guess. I don't know. And it's my shirt. I couldn't figure out what is this orange that's reflecting off all of the pieces here, and it's my shirt. I'm sorry. I got in trouble 2 weeks ago, because apparently I'd been wearing the same shirt every Wednesday, and so I tried to mix up my closet so that I wouldn't end up on the same shirt every Wednesday. Yes, I am one of those weird people who do it, who just set up their closet on laundry day. And then go through the week, and then when I'm done, I start over. MTP 481 with a retail price of $22.44 and a wholesale price of $14.03. And it's just lovely. You know, it's not really an apple shape, although it's reminiscent of that. This is the bail. It's kind of a folded up over teardrop shape with the tops and the bottom, right? Nice and pointy. That would look awesome. With a pearl in there. MTP 121 with a retail price of $19.47 and wholesale price of $12.17. And this is just a regular old treble clef, G clef, I should say, because I guess it depends how you use it. Right? You ever see music notation when there are 5 lines? The center of this thing, this is an old German letter G, and this little circles go around the second to last line in the bottom, which is the line for G in the music notation. I bet you didn't know that, huh? Retail price $19.47, wholesale price $12.17. Lovely little cup and peg down on the bottom. Yes, can't go wrong. Music notes, they're like they're classic, right? Like the music. Just kidding. MTP 485. God, that was a terrible joke. 1919 is it's a retail price, and $12 is a wholesale price. I'm sorry, I'm the only one who thinks I'm funny. Right, so it's a lovely teardrop sort of basket thing. Right, with the bail intertwined through the other, little cup and peg on the bottom. The bail is incorporated in the design. This is another one of those things that, although the cup itself is probably only about 8 millimeters wide, you could definitely get away with a much bigger bead or pearl in there, probably up to 12 millimeters, to completely occlude those frames and the holders of the cup and peg. MTP 455 with a retail price of $22.41 and a wholesale price of $14.94. It's just lovely. I don't know, I'm a fan of curly cues and whatever, those rococo elements, rows of cubic zirconias. You know, the more bling, the better in my book. And just this lovely classic cup and peg, again with that, the open cup and peg. Now, ostensibly, they do that, you know, to make it look cool, because it does look cool, but it's also, you know, the more void space, the less silver you need to fill that. So the lighter it is, so the less expensive it is. MTP 112 with a retail price of $41.05 and a wholesale price of $25.87. And we had one last week that was kind of a spiritual cousin of this, very similar in that it's almost like a freeform shape that looks like it's kind of folding up onto itself, but there are leaf vines or veins, like the veins in a leaf. All the way up from the inside, and there's cubic zirconias kind of scattered throughout that just make it look very cool. And the big cup and peg in the bottom, this row of, or this little I don't know what you call that, little flourish element, that once the pearl is down on there, I guess you could theoretically push that over onto the pearl, or just not, or just leave it the way it is. Here's another one, MTP 410, retail price of $29.38, wholesale price $19.59. And this, again, to me, this is almost like it's just a very simple pendant. The bail itself is the pendant, right? Incorporated in the design. Nice row of cubic zirconias making a halo around the outside of that giant cup and peg mounting. Again, even though that cup is so deep, the peg extends all the way past there. So even if you had a giant pearl, which I don't recommend doing it, you really want a pearl the outside diameter is smaller than this halo of cubic zirconia, so you don't lose that. So probably 10 or 12 millimeter would be ideal for that. Maybe 14. Depends on how wide that is. I can't shit off the top of my head. It looks like, to me, it looks like about 12 millimeters. MTP 706 with a retail price of $24.96 and a wholesale price of $15.60. So it's a cup and peg. It's almost peekaboo kind of thing, right? So this is the front with these row of cubic zirconias and these things around the bail, and the bail on the back, and the cup and peg also on the back. So imagine if you had, and I wish I had a big pearl I could stick in there, a great big pearl that would extend past the end of that would extend past the end of this. And, maybe if you had a pearl that wasn't perfect on one side, you could turn that around so that, that was hidden by that, or I don't know. I just think that's, it's just too cool for school. And oops, I dropped the next one. Our next item, MTP 703 with a retail price of $29.12 and a wholesale price of $18.20. And this again, the bail is up there, it's upside down, but it's bedecked in cubic zirconia, right? Nice big tall bail. And there's a lot of movement between the bail and the frame for the pearl, so it's definitely I don't know, just a lot of movement, a lot of jingle jangle right on this. It's very simple frame for the cup and peg, and you could put probably it looks like it's designed for like around 12 millimeters or so, but you could probably stretch that up to 14 or 16 millimeter, all the way up to the inside of this outside frame. I think would be jolly good. MTP 651 with a retail price of $32.24 and a wholesale price of $24.18. And this one, I every time I look at this, I think it looks like a I don't know, like a badge, like a commemoration badge or something, like a Loyal Order of the Knights of the Republic. Or something. That's a Star Wars reference, isn't it? Sorry. Right? It's just so cool with the cardinal points and these baguette stones set in between them, and the rows of cubic zirconias and that solid cup and bail that's just begging to be filled with resin or a great big beautiful pearl. God, it's just a classic, lovely, beautiful piece. Nice three-dimensional. Very regal. I don't know how else to say it. I just love that. I could see that on as a badge on someone's shoulder. MTP 140 with a retail price of $15.13 and a wholesale price of $9.07. It's obviously it's a diagonal or a square, right? Kind of wavy edges, wavy rays. Cubic zirconias through halfway of them, and just love these. Very, I don't know, post-industrial sort of look. I love that. It's a little too fluid to be post-industrial. It needs to be more MTP 191 for a retail price of $16.21 and a wholesale price of $10.14. This is just a lovely, smooth, pretty deep cup and peg mounting, right, with a bail incorporated into the design. And this is a traditional plumeria flower. With that lovely 5-pointed petals of that star. That's just lovely. And simple, classic, you can't go wrong. MTP 141 with a retail price of $21.37 and a wholesale price of $13.35. And this, golly, I know there's a name for those things, but I can't remember them off the top of my head. But just, so you got these 4 petals, all bedecked in cubic zirconias, with a cup and peg that just begging to be filled with a pearl all the way right out to the edges, so that all you would see is those lovely cubic zirconia petals around the outside of the pearl on the inside. Oh, that is so yummy. I love that. But I'm a fan of the cubic zirconia, the bling. Here's another one. MTP 136. It's going to keep flipping around. Retail price $35.74. Wholesale price $22.33. And this bail, again, incorporated into the design in the back there. And this is just golly, I don't know how to describe that. Kind of intertwined pieces, right? The one smooth piece intertwined around the one, bedecked in the cubic zirconias all the way around the outside with that cup and peg mounted in between them. Very three-dimensional, very cool, very interesting. But if you want 3D, here's one that you want. MTP 221 with a retail price of $45.15 and a wholesale price of $27.09. And I just love these. It's like one big ring element, a nice big smooth ring with these ovals with cubic zirconias that are all kind of interspersed, interlocking with each other, and that cup and peg mount right in the center of that nice deep piece. Very interesting, very cool. And it's just an eye catcher, right? MTP 133 with a retail price of $29.87 and a wholesale price of $18.67. This kind of looks like, to me, like grape leaves, I guess. I don't know why they look like grape leaves to me. They're just probably some old leaves that the designers came up with, alternating smooth, with the veins etched and cubic zirconias, the rows of cubic zirconias in there, and a little cup and peg mounting in the bottom, or great big super tall peg, but right, clearly for a little pearl, maybe like a 6mm pearl, I think that peg is bigger than 6mm, which is kind of a good segue to mention that the pegs that are in here are almost always designed to be longer than you need them to be. You just need to cut them down. You just need to measure. So if you have a 6mm pearl, theoretically, because the hole doesn't go all the way through, it goes probably halfway through. I guess you'd have to test it, but I would test it 2/3 of the way. So if you cut this down to 4mm, try it on. Put your pearl on. If your pearl doesn't make it all the way to the bottom, snip another millimeter off, and put it all the way down there. You really only need 2 or 3mm of this post glued onto the inside of a bead for it to be secure. Again, if you're using the right 2-part epoxy. That's just lovely. And again, sorry about the orange reflection from my shirt. Oh boy. MTP 647, retail price of $23.92 and a wholesale price of $17.94. I love this. It's just lovely vines, right? Just simple, bent around this center cup and post. Again, this is a solid one, so you can, if you like, snip that off and fill that with epoxy resin. Or you can, cast your own, pearls with epoxy resin and just drop that right on there. I love the leaves, how the leaves have the cubic zirconias in them. That's a cute technique that's kind of tricky to pull off because you have to have the right size of gaps in between them. Although I guess when you're designing them in the computer first, it's easier, but I just remembering from my fabrication days, those kind of things are tricky, as are this. This would be a nightmare if you were fabricating this, although it's gorgeous to look at. So it's got this stylized heart-shaped bail here, right? Nice big deep bail with another stylized heart with these rows of thing. Again, if I were fabricating this, you'd make this with square wire, and then you'd carve all the seats for all the little stones, and then you would cut out all the gaps in between them, put the stones in there, push the little gaps that form in between them, or little posts that form in between the intersections of all of the holes that you've drilled. And then this mill grain texture all the way around the outside. Very tricky to do if you're fabricating, but again, not so much casting. Very simple to do. And for only $22.97 as a retail price, wholesale $14.37. I said that already. Golly, you just can't go wrong. But again, I'm a sucker for those rows of cubic zirconia. MTP 035 with a retail price of $14.76 and wholesale price of $11.06. It's just a lovely curlicue, right? Big figure 8 S, but I guess whatever you want to call it, with the cubic zirconia up in the top and coming all the way around to this little trio leaf, I guess, of cubic zirconias with the basket or the cup and peg mounting down in the center of that. The bail incorporated into the design. Here's another one. I guess you can already tell that I'm in love with this one. MTP 1055 with a retail price of $37.86 and a wholesale price of $23.66. Just love the petals, right, of this flower designed with the baguettes. Right, those long, flat. These are kind of like coffin-shaped stones. So they're trapezoidal baguettes with a nice big giant opening, right, for a great big pearl, or a button pearl would be awesome on here, or a button cabochon, right, that you drilled a hole and you could glue that on there. Golly, so many things you could do with this. Although I think a nice big giant pearl, like a big 20 millimeter Tahitian pearl in there would just be killer. Maybe I aim too high. Oops. MTP 1069 with a retail price of $18.48 and a wholesale price of $11.17. God, these are dusty. Right, so lovely leaf shape, I guess, 3D leaf, just simple lines with the sterling silver and one little cubic zirconia up in the top there to give it a little bling, and the lovely little flower cup and peg setting down on the bottom. Probably is designed for, looks like around an 8 millimeter pearl, but you could put, 10, 12 millimeter pearl. Something big enough that it doesn't go past, I guess, this little gemstone here, because you really want that to be visible. You don't want to hide that. MTP 457 with a retail price of $16.69 and a wholesale price of $11.13. And again, this is just crazy lines, right? It's kind of symmetrical, but not very three-dimensional. Bail incorporated into the design, right? Nice big double bail, so it would hang something like this. Would be the straight up and down. I just love that. Very cool. I think it's meant to look like it's all one line that's just drawn all the way around, which it kind of does. Looks like that. MTP015 with a retail price of $29.76 and a wholesale price of $18.82. I don't know. I look at this and it's like a phoenix, peacock, something. It's a bird, roadrunner. So I'm having flashbacks to my Saturday morning cartoons here thing. So no, I think it's a phoenix. I guess it would be the thing, or peacock feathers are different. It's a bird with its its head, his little plume, the lovely tail feathers, and the big cup and peg for the body. Probably 10 or 12 millimeter stone would fit in there. You can definitely put in bigger stuff because you don't have to worry about the pearl banging into stuff until you got all the way up here, of that. So with that, you're looking at, what is that, like a 20 millimeter? You could put something huge in there. Or something small, you probably don't want to go much smaller than 8 or 6 millimeters, but those would work. MTP 692 with a retail price of $43.91 and a wholesale price of $27.44. And it's just a lovely three-dimensional, it's like a twisty sort of effect, kind of like a teardrop, with all these cubic zirconias, pave style, set inside there. And again, even though these are castings, right, you can't cast this kind of cubic zirconia in this way. I mean, there's lots of ways that you can cast them in place, but pave style, you can't really do it, cast them in place. So somebody has to set all these stones after the fact in there. So definitely very labor-intensive piece. Right, oops. MTP 478 with a retail price of $22.43 and a wholesale price of $14.01. I just love this flower pendant shape, I guess, because it's very three-dimensional. I don't know if you can see that. It almost looks like, and this looks like something I would have made just out of wire fabricated, and it would have taken me hours to make it, hammering each individual piece out into this, flat edge, and then bending it into a swirl, and then soldering them all together. I just love it. It's just gorgeous. And again, I've got this peg here. There's not much of a base, so you can put a little tiny pearl, like a little 4 millimeter pearl in there, all the way up to, golly, however big you want, depending on how much of the inside you want to occlude in there. I think it wouldn't start to look weird until you got, pretty close to where they intersect from each other. So you're looking at something as big as probably, 20, 24 millimeters to put in there. Huge. I know, right? Giant. So last week I showed you the other, not really a spiritual cousin, it's like a brother of this. It was this, but it's in two parts, right? One clamshell folds over the other, right? And this is just the background, just the inside, right? So one side had a peg that you would glue, your pearl or your bead on or whatever, and the other side covers over and hides it. And it's a kind of interesting thing where, you need somebody to actually lift up the inside to see the pearl, or, if you're showing it to them. This, you don't have to worry about strangers grabbing your necklace and wanting to look at the pearl inside. The pearl is just there, front and center. Nice big MTP 027 with a retail price of $21.18 and a wholesale price of $15.89. And I just love that. Very, very traditional, very classic. you know, and you want a pearl on this, right? Because it's clamshell. It's kind of it would look weird if it was just some random stone. LJ605 with a retail price of $42.35 and a wholesale price of $24.86. And so this is a clover for sure. It's not some weird stylized version. It's an actual clover. I love the cubic zirconias in the tips of the leaves with these rows of lines, and that cup and peg mount down in the bottom. The shape or the size of the outside perimeter of that cup and peg is probably 6 millimeters, maybe 7 millimeters. You know, but you could definitely get away with a bigger piece, maybe 10, 12 millimeters, maybe even 14. You don't want to get too big because then it starts looking like just weird fans coming out from behind the pearl. You want to be able to definitely keep all of the clover inside the or outside the perimeter of the pearl and visible, right? Although it's totally up to you. I don't know. I don't have to wear it. You do. MTP 220 with a retail price of $48.67 and a wholesale price of $30.42. And again, this is another one of those things where you know that the guy who was doing the 3D design, oh, what's that piece of dust or something? It was the guy who was doing the 3D design was just showing off, right? It's got that lovely spiral of lines, very three-dimensional piece. Right, with rows of cubic zirconias in there and a nice big cup and peg mount down on the bottom. The whole thing looking kind of like I guess like a leaf, right? This needs a giant pearl. This needs a big, like a 16 or 18 millimeter pearl, preferably a fabulously expensive Tahitian pearl. You know, something with that dark oil slick color on them. Oh, I love those. MTP 166 with a retail price of $27.89 and a wholesale price of $17.34. Got this lovely teardrop with a kind of and I know it's not really a spiral, but I call it, it's kind of a spiral effect. It gives you the effect of movement, right? That these rows, how the rows are a long angle followed by a short angle, long, you know, almost like a shark's fin. Right, so it gives you the impression of movement of there within the cubic zirconias. I love that. Nice big deep cup and peg pearl, cup and peg mounting, I should say. Boy, the opening on that is pretty huge, probably 16 millimeters, 18 millimeters. I wouldn't want to go much bigger than that. You definitely want the outside perimeter of the pearl to not extend past the outside perimeter of that, although making it smaller is definitely an option because of the decorative inside of that. MTP 483 with a retail price of $20.12 and a wholesale price of $12.58. And this lovely stylized heart shape with a row of cubic zirconias. And I just love these lines, these nice, very cute lines. And the cup and peg mounting. Very cute. Can't go wrong with that. Oh, that's the last one in that tray. We're getting up there. MTP 900. With a retail price of $20.67 and a wholesale price of $16.54. Again, another leaf. I'm not going to say what kind of a leaf I think it is because I'm no horticulturalist, and definitely I don't want to confuse people. We've got these cubic zirconias there mounted up in the top stem. Probably 6 millimeter is the size of that cup and peg mounting, although you could definitely get away with a bigger one. Did I say MTP 900? Retail price $20.67, wholesale price $16.54. And our next one, MTP 131, with a retail price of $17.30 and a wholesale price of $10.82. And this definitely gives you that impression of that illusion of movement, right? With those the rays here that are kind of at an angle to give you that spiral sort of effect, right? It gives you that illusion of 3D. Gold teardrop. Anyway, and rows of cubic zirconias with the edges decorated with that mill grain texture. Very cool. Very blingy. I love it. Here's a super simple plain one. MTP 193 with a retail price of $10.97 and a wholesale price of $6.85. This one, I probably should have cleaned this before. This is dusty. And a little bit tarnished. Sorry. So this is just a very simple, plain oval teardrop, right? It looks like it's kind of bound up at the top with that simple cup and peg mounting down at the bottom, right? Nice big deep peg. Can't go wrong. Again, apologies for that dusty piece. I should have cleaned it before. MTP 628 with a retail price of $21.84 and a wholesale price of $16.38. It's just a very cool piece. This definitely looks like one of the things I would have soldered together, making a bunch of little jump rings and a bunch of little, curlicues and ovals in the sides and solder them all together. Would have taken me hours and hours. Row of cubic zirconias around the frame. I just love this. Very cool, interesting basket effect. Again, with this bail is hang up there. Our next one, MTP 653 with a retail price of $39.31 and a wholesale price of $29.48. And this is another one, kind of like that round dome one that I showed you before, where the tops look like they're kind of, coming up over to make sort of like almost like a, I don't know, like a cup, very three-dimensional. We've got this... it's not a cup and peg, just a peg mounting thing. You probably want a pearl that's big enough to cover some of that frame, although I think that once you get a big enough pearl on there, even if it were not enough to go all the way to the edge, even like a 6 or 8 millimeter, well, maybe 8 or 10 millimeter, you'd still have a gap between the edge of the pearl and this thing, so you would be able to see that frame, but I don't think it would be really visible. It's one of those things that if you're not looking at it, and if it's not brought to your attention, you don't really know it's there. This is just so cool, right? I love this bail with that trio of cubic zirconias and that pointy at the top. MTP 409 with a retail price of $24.80 and a wholesale price of $16.54. It's obviously just lovely ribbons. Kind of scrolly ribbons. I love that. It's very movement oriented, very evocative of movement. It's got this pod, I guess, of cubic zirconias in there. The frame or the bail is incorporated into the design of the ribbons that frame the outside of that cup and peg mounting. Again, very sinuous, very cute, very, I don't know, love it. MTP 164 with the retail price of $23.26 and a wholesale price of $14.53. And again, another very three-dimensional piece, right, with a deep basket with a bail incorporated into the design. These rows of, smooth silver and this one row with cubic zirconias in there. And the little cup and peg mounting down on the bottom. Right. So you're looking, I don't know, the flower, the outside of the flower of that cup and peg mounting is probably 8 millimeters. You could get away with between the peg and probably that piece there. That part of the frame is probably, you could probably get away with 12 millimeter, maybe 14 millimeter pearl in there before it starts getting too big for the piece. But I don't know, go big or go home, right? Is there such a thing as too big of a pearl? This is all tangled up. MTP 640 with a retail price of $32.24 and a wholesale price of $24.18. Oops. So this is just a nice big teardrop sort of thing. ribbons and flourishes, some with cubic zirconia, some with not, intertwined around each other. Just lovely. I'm getting close on an hour now. I'm going to have to speed up. I got 2 more rows of pendants. MTP 439, retail price of $24.58 and a wholesale price of $16.38. Lovely leaf, I guess, with a row of cubic zirconias up on the bail, which is incorporated into the design. 10, 12 millimeter cup and peg mounting there. But again, I guess by now you've figured out that you could put pretty much whatever sized half drilled pearl or stone you want in there. Now, this is another one of those things where you know that the guy working the 3D CAD designer was just having fun, making something that's so playful, so interesting, very MTP 459 with a retail price of $18.53, wholesale price of $12.35. And I'm going to say something, but I shouldn't, because I don't want to put this idea in your mind, but it's just very sci-fi to me. I just love this. You know, this rows, you know, back and forth, and the gaps in between the ribbons, you know, with these lines. I love it. Love it, love it. Very crazy, very three-dimensional piece. This MTP 139 with a retail price of $25.53 and a wholesale price of $15.95. Obviously a crucifix with rows of cubic zirconias, and this nice big, this is bent over because it's been sitting in the trays there that we take to shows for years. And probably you don't need the peg to be that big anyway. I'm not going to bend it up with my fingers. But for small pearl, you know, 4, 6, 8 millimeter, 12 millimeter probably. You don't want to go too far because you don't want to start hiding these cubic zirconias in there, but you could definitely get away with, I think the distance between there and there, right, the edges of the cubic zirconias is probably 12 millimeter, 14 millimeters, right? So don't be afraid to go small or big on some of these. MTP 470 with a retail price of $21.98 and a wholesale price of $14.65. Another lovely stylized heart with cubic zirconias in some of the swirls, and that lovely flowery cup and peg mounting. Right, pretty self-explanatory. MTP 484 with a retail price of $34.05 and a wholesale price of $21.28. I love this. Again, this is another one of those things where there's it's almost like 3 different textures all being, you know, swirled into one. One, you know, so one just plain smooth one, that same ray but with rows of lines with that mill-grain texture, and the same thing only bedecked in pave style cubic zirconias. Nice big inverted drop bail with that lovely little cup and peg. Again, very three-dimensional piece, right? This. So if you put a nice big pearl or a small pearl, 6, 8 millimeter pearl, maybe 10 millimeters, right down into the bottom of that, it definitely looks like you're swirling down into the pearl or the stone. MTP 186 with a retail price of $18.34 and wholesale price of $11.47. This one, the bail is incorporated into the design, and this is the straight up and down orientation of it, right? So obviously it's a sun with gorgeous three-dimensional rays, a cup and peg mount on the bottom. It's probably 6 millimeter, 8 millimeters maybe. You can get away with probably 10 up to 10 or 12 millimeters of a pearl in that. MTP 477 with a retail price of $26.66 and a wholesale price of $16.67. And inverted teardrop with that you know, kind of a swirly, you know, line all the way down through the minute that has cubic zirconias flush mounts or gypsy mounts, gypsy set if you want to call it that. I call it flush mount all the way around down them. And the bail incorporated in the design. Nice big solid cup and peg. So, fill that with resin or put a pearl there or a bead, 12, 14 millimeters, maybe 16 at the most. MTP 639 with a retail price of $24.96 and a wholesale price of $18.72. And I love these just kind of like scallops, right? So if you take a jump ring and you cut it into a bunch of different pieces, this is what you're left over with, and you can just solder those all together. I just love that sort of cage or netting effect with that big row of cubic zirconias all the way around the outside of that pear-shaped piece. And a nice big cup and peg mount on the inside, probably the distance or the diameter of those petals, probably 12 millimeter. So we can get away with 12, 14, maybe as big as 16, to fill all that space, behind there. Again, it's very three-dimensional, very cool, very sinuous, lovely. MTP 480 with a retail price of $26.91 and a wholesale price of $16.82. This is just a lovely teardrop, and God, this looks so much like it's one of those projects that I would have made ages ago to sell, because it's very classic. Just a teardrop shape, right? It's all kind of woven into one piece with the bail incorporated in the design. And we've got this lovely, probably 5 millimeter cubic zirconia, maybe a 4 millimeter, with a tube setting right up against the side of there, and a band with that cup and peg, not a cup and peg, but just a peg mount on the inside. You can get away with a pearl that's huge in this one. Maybe 14, 16 millimeter pearl in there would be lovely. MTP 465 with a retail price of $14.78 and a wholesale price of $9.58. And I just love these wings, right? So there's little angel wings coming up around from the outside of the pearl, right? So if you've got a pearl that completely covered that, it would just look like the wings spouting out of the edge of the pearl. That I just love this. Very simple, very elegant, very classy. And as we say in the business, gorge. MTP 475 with a retail price of $14.66 and a wholesale price of $9.78. Kind of offset lines of silver with a cubic zirconias in the top, a little square. Very simple, very delicate, very elegant. Here's another one, very simple. Little rectangular frame, kind of like at a diagonal angle, with some rows of cubic zirconias and the cup and peg mounting down in one corner. That cup and peg is probably for 8 millimeter pearl. Again, you don't want to get too big because you don't want to overwhelm the frame. Here's one. I know I'm going fast. MTP 155 with a retail price of $28.37 and a wholesale price of $17.73. And it's just, I don't know, flower, I guess. Very cool sort of flower effect with some, I don't know what the shape is inside these petals, alternating between that and the ones with the cubic zirconias in the rows. And this lovely cup and peg mounting with the hearts pierced into the cardinal points of that. That cup and peg is probably 10 millimeters wide, maybe 12 millimeters wide. MTP 161 with a retail price of $29.97 and a wholesale price of $18.73. And it's just a lovely, four-pointed flower, four-petal flower, with rows of cubic zirconias at the very tips of the petals, and these rays of lines, right, forming the actual petals. The diameter of that opening down on the bottom there, of that circle, is looks like to me 7 millimeters, maybe 8. No, 6 or 7. But you could definitely get a pearl in there that's much bigger, because it's very three-dimensional, right? So even a much wider pearl, you probably don't want to lose too much of these lines that create the petals, kind of thing. But golly, I think something big like a 16 or 18 millimeter pearl would look gorgeous in there. MTP $495 with a retail price of $15.60 and a wholesale price of $9.75. And this is just again classic with the bail incorporated in the design. Square, right, pierced, and then curved. Two ways. So what is that? Anti-clastic. Anyway, MTP $495, retail price of $15.60, wholesale price $9.75. It's got that lovely cup and peg down in the middle, very center of that. I don't know if you can see that. So, I mean, theoretically, golly, any size pearl that you were comfortable putting in there. I probably wouldn't want to hide too much of the design, but, you know, it's up to you. And the last one for today, MTP $499 with a retail price of $18.66 and a wholesale price of $11.66. And this is just hearts piled on top of hearts, piled on top of hearts, with some cubic zirconias in the intersections of those hearts, and a lovely large cup and peg down at the bottom. Probably 8 or 10 millimeters is that cup and peg, but you can get away with a little bit, bigger pearl, probably up to 14 or 16 millimeters. I love how deep this is, how deep the edge is. Yeah. So that's it. That is the pearls from today, the pearl pendants from today. Next week we will finish off the pearl pendants. And then I guess we're going to go on to something else. Maybe we'll do rings next. I'm not sure what else next. Again, don't forget, if you share this video whenever you're watching, let us know if you have done it, because obviously in about 2 minutes it won't be live anymore, so you'll be watching this and everything. And if you're still watching this, why? We're done. There's no more things to look at. But we'll send you one of these polishing cloths, right? These lovely polishing cloths. Because we love you guys. We love our customers. We love seeing you. I think hopefully we'll be seeing you again at shows again soon. I'm having to slouch down. I don't want to slouch. Let me bring this up a little bit. There we go. Better. And we can see Nelson down in the thing. What is that? Oh, there's Nelson. Wave, Nelson. Say hi. There he is. So anyway, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us today. Again, we do this every Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, and extrapolate out to whatever your time zone is. I don't know. Google it. Figure it out. You're smart. Take care of yourself. Take care of the planet. Take care of your mental health. Keep making stuff. Boy, just... I'm starting to... I have a couple of other projects that are not jewelry related going on right now, that I'm actually... It's making me get more into, because I'll tell you quite honestly, this whole pandemic thing, and I don't know, I just did the opposite of what everybody else does. Everybody is like, yay, we're home and we can make stuff, we can learn to play a new instrument, or we can do... And I just did the opposite. I just I didn't do anything. I watched TV and fretted about my existential angst. But starting to make stuff, definitely it helps get those creative juices flowing, and it helps allay the melancholia a little bit. So keep making stuff, keep being creative, and take care. We'll see you next week. Alrighty. Bye-bye. Hope I get this right.